Rumors are swirling, emotions are boiling over, and if what's being whispered across love and hip-hop sets is even half true, the fallout from Ciara's explosive accusation may have just reached its breaking point. Insiders claim Mendeecees has had enough and after days of backlash, humiliation, and watching his name get dragged through the dirt, he's finally speaking out behind the scenes. According to people close to production, Mendeecees recently told producers flat out, "I want Ciara off the show. Not in passing, not in frustration, but as a serious demand." And that's not even the half of it. Word is, the tension has gotten so deep that even Yandy, usually calm, composed, and calculated, snapped. Sources say she confronted Ciara off camera in a moment that nearly turned physical. One cast member reportedly had to hold Yandy back after she screamed, "You don't get to lie on my husband," and walk away. Fans who were on set say the energy was terrifying. Others are calling it the most intense meltdown love and hip-hop has seen since the Joe's Line days. But here's the question: what really went down when cameras weren't rolling? And why are some producers now afraid this season has gone too far, even for them? We're breaking down everything we've heard so far. They thought the tension had died down after the initial explosion between Ciara and Mendeecees. After the podcast, the leaked footage, the mediator session, most of the crew believed things were finally leveling out. There were murmurs that production might actually smooth things over and bring everyone back into filming rotation like nothing ever happened. But that illusion shattered the moment Mendeecees walked into the production trailer 2 days later and said, without raising his voice, "I want her off the show." Those 5 words changed everything. The producers sitting in that trailer didn't react right away. Some glanced at each other. Others froze, unsure whether he was serious or just venting. But Mendeecees wasn't pacing. He wasn't yelling. He stood still, calm but firm, his tone low and deliberate. "You let her lie on me. You let her twist my image on camera. And now people looking at me like I'm some kind of threat. I'm not filming another scene unless y'all do something about it." What made it worse was that Yandy was standing behind him, arms crossed, expression unreadable. She didn't interrupt. She didn't add anything. But the look in her eyes said this wasn't just about TV anymore. This was personal. And people knew when Yandy got quiet, it meant something was brewing. Rumors had already started circulating. The night before, someone from the glam team leaked a voice note where Yandy allegedly said, "I'm done being classy about it. The next time I see her, it's on site." That voice note made its way into fan groups, onto Twitter threads. And by morning, half the internet was convinced Yandy and Ciara had already fought off camera. But what really happened was worse than that, because it almost did. On a supposedly calm reset day, the cast had been brought in for a light promo shoot. Nothing heavy. No confrontation scheduled. It's just some new green screen confessionals, and B-roll Ciara arrived first, acting as if nothing had happened. She laughed with crew, fixed her makeup, took selfies with her assistant, and sipped green juice while scrolling through her phone. She hadn't said anything publicly since the mediator footage aired, but her silence had come across as smug to fans. Her comment sections were a mix of support and venom, with one person writing, "If you ever cried wolf for clout, this is what it looks like." Mendeecees and Yandy arrived nearly an hour later. They weren't supposed to be on the same set as Ciara that day, but somehow, either by mistake or design, their call times overlapped. And that was the moment the spark hit the gasoline. People on set say it started the moment Yandy spotted Ciara across the room. Yandy froze, her eyes narrowed. She whispered something to Mendeecees, who gently shook his head like he didn't want anything more to happen. But Yandy had reached her limit. One crew member said you could see it in her shoulders, in the way she slowly started walking towards Ciara, removing her earrings as she stepped. Ciara didn't notice at first. She was laughing at something on her phone. It wasn't until a makeup artist backed away suddenly that she looked up and saw Yandy coming. "Oh, so now you bold." Yandi said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "You think you get to humiliate my husband on TV and just act like everything's cool?" Sierra stood up, her tone sharp. "This ain't the time or the place, Yandi." "It wasn't the time or place when you lied either," Yandi shot back. "But you did it anyway." Camera was already rolling. Someone had instinctively hit. Record when they saw Yandi approaching. No one wanted to miss what they thought would just be another heated moment. But they were wrong, because what happened next had the whole room frozen. Yandi Y stepped forward, so close there was barely a breath between them. She raised her hand, not in a swinging motion. Not yet, but it was enough to make a producer yell, "Get her back now." One of the cast members, reportedly Rashida, ran in and wrapped her arms around Yandi's waist, physically pulling her back. "You're not gonna mess up everything you built for this," Rashida kept saying. "Not for her. Not like this." But Yandi was trembling. Not out of fear, but out of fury. "She tried to ruin us," she kept repeating. She lied on him and smiled about it. "You think I'm gonna let that slide?" Sierra didn't move. She just stood there, eyes wide, mouth shut. For once, she didn't have a comeback. Maybe she thought Yandi would never really break character like that. Maybe she didn't expect this much pressure after the mediator scene. But the energy had shifted. The entire crew could feel it. The situation got so tense, producers cleared the set immediately. Everyone was sent to separate holding rooms. Confessionals were canceled. Security was tripled. And by the time things calmed down, a new decision had already been made. There needed to be a full cast emergency meeting. The idea came from the executive producer, who had flown in after hearing how bad things had gotten. He didn't want things spiraling into lawsuits or real violence. Okay? And most of all, he didn't want to lose two of the show's biggest stars. But when he asked Mendeecees to sit down with Sierra one more time, the answer was instant. "No," Mendeecees said flatly. "There's no healing this. She gets removed or I walk." The producer tried to soften the situation. "Maybe there's a way to control the narrative. Maybe we bring in outside press, let the fans hear your side again." "They already heard it," Mendeecees said. "And I'm not going to keep repeating myself so she gets another storyline out of my pain." Yandi stood behind him the whole time, arms still crossed, jaw locked. She didn't speak during that conversation. But when the producer turned to her as if asking for backup, she leaned in and said something no one expected. "If she stays, we both leave." It wasn't just a threat, it was a fact. And the weight of those words sent a ripple through the entire production. The dilemma was now clear. Keep Sierra, risk losing two longtime cast members and the fan trust they built. Or let her go, can deal with the backlash from firing a woman who still had her own following and had claimed she was simply speaking her truth. But things weren't as simple as that. Because while producers debated behind closed doors, someone on set had leaked the footage of Yandi nearly slapping Sierra. It wasn't full video, just a blurry clip from the moment Rashida grabbed her waist. But the internet didn't need context, just needed fire. And that clip was it. Within hours, the blogs had picked it up. Headlines read, "Yandi almost puts hands on Sierra after mediator fallout and tensions explode on set again. Yandi ready to throw hands?" Mendeecees saw it on his phone while sitting in his trailer. He handed the phone to Yandi without a word. She stared at it for a few seconds, then sighed. "They always frame us as the aggressive ones," she whispered. "Even when we're the ones holding back." Mendeecees looked at her. "Then maybe it's time we stop holding back." He didn't mean violence. He meant the truth. The full truth. Every part they had held in for the sake of image. Because the more they tried to stay quiet, the more it gave other people room to rewrite their story. And this time, they weren't letting that happen again. Mendeecees wasn't just angry anymore. He was tired. He's tired of being patient, tired of explaining, tired of smiling through disrespect while cameras kept rolling. After everything that happened, the false accusation, the public fallout, the mediation that didn't mean anything he had tried to move forward. But now, with that blurry clip of Yandi nearly slapping Sierra floating around, the internet had turned the story upside down. Again, no one was talking about the lie anymore. No one was talking about what started all this. They were talking about Yandi, her anger, her reaction, like she was the one who caused all this. And that's when something in Mendeecees shifted. He told the network he wanted to record a private statement. Not an interview, not a sit-down, just him. One camera, no edits. He didn't want lighting, he didn't want music, he wanted raw, real. And final dot, the network was hesitant. They knew what kind of power Mendeecees had with the fans. His voice held weight. And if he said the wrong thing the wrong way, it could burn the entire season to the ground. But they also knew they couldn't silence him again. Not after what he'd already been through. So they agreed. Mendeecees found out an hour later. He was sitting on the front porch, scrolling through his kids' group chat when the message came through. He read it, put the phone down, and stared into the distance for a long time. Then, quietly, he said to himself, "They finally listening." But Sierra was unraveling. She'd been told about the leak just minutes before it went viral. Her phone lit up with missed calls, text messages from people she hadn't spoken to in weeks, and a message from her assistant that just said, "We're in trouble." She called her manager. He didn't pick up. She called her publicist. Voicemail. She opened her Instagram app and immediately wished she hadn't. The clip was everywhere. Reposted by fan pages, blogs, influencers, even verified accounts. The comments were brutal. "You destroyed a man's reputation for clout. You fake crying now? We see you." Within hours, she turned her comments off by nightfall. Sierra posted a story, not a statement, just a black screen again. No text, just silence. The kind of silence that felt like guilt, whether she meant it to or not. Yandi Y saw it. She watched the story, then sent the link to Mendeecees. He didn't say anything. He just double-tapped the message and went back to what he was doing. At that point, they both knew the damage wasn't going to be undone by a post. The cast began to fracture even more. Erica Mena posted a tweet that read, "One thing about Karma always comes with receipts." She didn't tag anyone. She didn't have to. Bambi reposted a screenshot of Sierra's leaked audio with the caption, "Us. So y'all gonna keep pretending this ain't real?" Scrappy liked the post. The producers were losing control of their own show. Scenes had to be rewritten, call times shuffled, new plot lines drafted just to fill the space Sierra left behind. And through it all, Yandi remained cold, composed, but under that calm. Everyone could feel as she was holding back a war dot one afternoon, while prepping for a new green screen confessional. The director asked if Yandi wanted to mention the situation. No, she said flatly, not even to set the record straight. She looked into the camera straight through the lens and replied, "My record ain't crooked. Theirs is." And with that, she gave them what they needed, a line more powerful than any monologue. Fans were eating it up. The narrative had shifted entirely. Mendeecees was being called the most composed man on reality TV. Yandi was being praised for standing firm without snapping. And Sierra, once considered a rising voice of the franchise, is now trending as the most divisive cast member in recent memory. But the story wasn't over, because someone on set claimed Sierra was planning her own video. Not a confessional, not a cast interview. A personal video. One where she'd speak freely, tell her version, and drop her own receipts, whether it would help or hurt her even more. No one knew yet, but the storm hadn't passed. It was just circling again. Sierra had always believed in controlling the narrative. Ever since she first joined the show, she played the game like a strategist, emotional when she needed to be, savage when the cameras demanded it, and silent when the backlash came too fast to outrun. But this time, nothing was working. The Leaked audio had shattered every ounce of credibility she thought she had. The fans weren't buying her silence. The cast wasn't rallying behind her. And the network had started treating her like a liability instead of a star. She was boxed in, and she knew it. So, late one night, after avoiding every call, dodging every camera, and watching her followers drag her name through the dirt for days, she decided to fight back the only way she knew how, with her own version of the truth. No producers, no makeup, no script. It's just her phone, and a dark hotel room. The video she recorded was raw. Her voice cracked in the first minute. Her eyes were red, no filters. She looked like someone who hadn't slept. And maybe she hadn't. "I'm not going to sit here and pretend like this season hasn't broken me," she started. "I've been called every name possible: manipulator, liar, clout chaser. But no one's even asked me what I was feeling in that moment. They just decided what it was." She paused, gathering herself. "I never said Mendeecees put hands on me. I said I felt unsafe. And yeah, I knew how that would sound. But that doesn't mean I planned to ruin him. It means I wanted to be heard." She went on to say that the leaked audio was taken out of context, that she jokes before scenes to calm her nerves, that she never meant to make it seem rehearsed. She ended the video with a soft but shaky whisper: "I'm not perfect, but I'm not evil either." The video hit the internet before sunrise. Within an hour, it had over 200,000 views. The comments came pouring in. Some showed sympathy, others doubled down on their hate. And then there were the ones in the middle, the ones who said it was all just too messy to know what was real anymore. But the cast wasn't confused. When the video was sent into the group thread the producers used to schedule filming, Yandi didn't even respond. She just left the chat. And everyone noticed Mendeecees was even more direct. He posted a quote on his Instagram story. Simple white text on a black background. "Remorse without accountability is manipulation." He didn't tag her, didn't mention the video, but the message was loud. The network was now in a panic, but their attempt to control the fire had only added more fuel. Sponsors were getting nervous again. Fan polls showed a steep drop in trust around the brand. Some even accused VH1 of encouraging the setup just for storyline. Internally, producers knew they had to act fast. They decided to host a closed-door cast summit. No cameras, no crew. It's just the main players in one room, supervised, mediated, and off the record. It wasn't about filming anymore. It was about survival. The meeting took place at a quiet event space outside Atlanta. No signage, no promo. Everyone came in separately, under tight security. The seating chart was set before anyone arrived. Mendeecees and Yandi sat on one end of the table. Sierra was placed at the other. Between them sat Rashida, Kirk, Scrappy, and a few neutral producers. A trained conflict mediator stood at the front. Not the same one from before. This one was brought in by VH1 corporate. Someone completely disconnected from the show. The session began with a disclaimer. No footage would be used. No quotes would be aired. But the hope was to restore enough peace to keep the season alive. Yandi didn't speak for the first 30 minutes. She let Mendeecees lead. He laid everything out clearly. What the accusation did to his name. What the silence that followed did to his family. How walking through Atlanta now felt different. How his sons had asked if what they saw online was true. "I've worked too hard to get out of the shadow of who I used to be," he said quietly. "And you dragged me right back into it. Not by telling your truth, but by twisting mine." Sierra was emotional. She listened. She nodded. But when it was her turn, her voice cracked again. "I really didn't think it would blow up like this," she said. "I was speaking from a place of fear, not strategy." Yandi leaned forward finally. "Fear," she said. "Girl," you whispered. "Watch this." Before the cameras rolled. That wasn't fear. Oh, that was performance. Okay. And you knew exactly what that moment would do. Sierra opened her mouth, but Rashida cut in before she could answer. "You messed up," Rashida said. "Just admit it. Don't spin it. Don't sugarcoat it. You had just owned it from the beginning. Maybe things would have been different." Room went silent. For the first time, Sierra looked like she didn't have a comeback. "I was wrong," she whispered. "It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. But it was real. I should have clarified sooner. I let it get out of control, and I'm sorry." The apology hung in the air, heavy but honest. Mendeecees didn't speak. He nodded once, then looked away. Yandi stayed still, her eyes sharp, unreadable. The mediator wrapped the meeting shortly. After encouraging everyone to take time before deciding whether or not they'd return to filming, no decisions were made that day, but something had shifted again. Not healed, not forgiven, but shifted. Outside the event space, fans were already camped out with signs. Some had shirts that said "Protect Mendeecees." Others held posters with both his and Yandi's faces. One fan shouted, "We got your back!" As they walked to their car, Mendeecees nodded politely. Yandi didn't say a word. 3 days later, VH1 made a public statement. In response to recent events, we are working closely with our cast to ensure safety, transparency, and integrity moving forward. We remain committed to providing a space where all voices can be heard and all truths respected. Behind closed doors, that meant a lot of changes. Security would be mandatory on all sets. Confessionals would be reviewed before airing, and Sierra would be on a probationary period, limited scenes, supervised interactions, final approval by executive producers before any footage with her name got greenlit. But even with all that, something had been lost. Mendeecees went back to filming, but only on his terms. Yandi returned too, but with walls higher than ever. And Sierra? Well, Sierra was still there. But she wasn't the same. The show would go on. It always did. But this season would be remembered not for its love stories, not for its petty fights. But for the moment, everything stopped feeling like a show and started looking like real consequences. If you've been following this story from the beginning, then you already know this wasn't just another love and hip-hop moment. This wasn't about petty shade or stage drama. This was about what happens when a lie, even a small one, spirals into something big enough to ruin reputations, break friendships, and change the course of an entire show. Mendeecees said he wanted Sierra off the show end for a minute. It looked like it might actually happen. Yandi nearly put hands on her. The cast split in half. Fans turned into investigators. And the network scrambled just to keep it all from falling apart. But with Sierra still on probation and both Mendeecees and Yandi refusing to stay silent anymore, one thing's for sure, this story isn't finished. What do you think? Did Sierra's apology come too late? Was Yandi justified in wanting to confront her face to face? And do you think Mendeecees had every right to demand she be removed? Or did the show need both sides to move forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're watching. If you want the real raw updates before the blogs twist it, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Because on this show, the drama doesn't fade, it just waits for the next scene. He walked into the soundstage with no entourage, no stylist, no handlers. Just Yandi by his side and a quiet producer who looked like he didn't want to be there. The camera started rolling and Mendeecees sat down, elbows on his knees, looking straight ahead. When I came back to this show, I did it because I wanted to show people how far I'd come. I wanted people to see growth, forgiveness, rebuilding. But what happened this season broke something in me. And I can't keep sitting here, letting people disrespect my name, my marriage, and my integrity for the sake of ratings. He paused, swallowing hard before continuing. What Sierra did was not just a moment, it was a choice. She stood on camera and implied that I made her feel physically unsafe. And whether she meant to or not, she let the world believe I put hands on her. She let that narrative spread while she stayed silent. And then she laughed, like it didn't matter. Yandi stood behind the camera, arms folded across her chest. This was the first time she'd seen him speak with no filter, no second guessing. The quiet pain in his voice cut deeper than any argument. I didn't touch her, I didn't threaten her, but I did confront her. Because she disrespected my family. And if you think I'm gonna let someone get famous by dragging me through the mud, you got me confused. So I'm saying it clear, I want Sierra off the show. Those 6 words echoed louder than any fight. The clip was never meant to air. But someone from production leaked it within 24 hours. And once it hit the internet, everything exploded. Fans who were already skeptical of Sierra's story now had confirmation that Mendeecees wasn't staying quiet anymore. They flooded the comments under her old photos. They tagged the network. They started hashtags like Protect Mendeecees and Sierra Gotta Go. But the real surprise came from Yandi. While Mendeecees was fighting with his words, Yandi was working behind the scenes. She reached out to people in production, not just to make demands, but to show receipts. Text messages, screenshots, even voicemails. Messages from other cast members who admitted Sierra had told them she planned to check Mendeecees on camera for a moment. Messages from glam crew who overheard her rehearsing what she'd say. And one chilling voice note from a stylist who claimed Sierra told her the day before filming, "I'm about to make headlines." Just wait. Those receipts changed everything. The network couldn't ignore it anymore. They called an emergency meeting with executive producers, legal advisors, and talent coordinators. The conversation wasn't about if Sierra had gone to fair, it was about what the consequences should be. "We can't fire her outright," one exec said. "Not without a legal case." "We don't need to fire her," another replied. "Just ice her out, move her to background scenes. Phase her out quietly." But that wasn't enough for Mendeecees or Yandi. They wanted accountability. They wanted something real. And then, unexpectedly, someone else stepped in, Queen Key. She hadn't been involved in the situation directly, but she'd been watching. And apparently, she had her own history with Sierra. She went live on Instagram one night, and what she said sent fans into a frenzy. "I'm not saying Sierra's lying," she began, "but I will say this: she know how to play the victim. She did it to me too. Tried to flip the script like I was the aggressor, like I was the one wild and out. And she's good at it. Real good." Fans clipped the live, reposted it everywhere. Some called it shady. Others said Queen Key was just stating facts, but it added more pressure. And that pressure finally reached Sierra. After days of silence, she posted a single Instagram story. A black screen with white text. "I never meant to hurt anybody. I just told my truth." But no one was buying it anymore. Behind the scenes, Sierra was unraveling. Her team had advised her to lay low, to avoid saying anything that could be twisted. But that silence had turned into guilt by omission. Her closest friends on the cast had stopped calling. Glam artists were pulling out of bookings. Producers weren't answering her texts, and then she found out about the footage, apparently. Someone on the crew had saved a longer version of the scene. Not just the moment she confronted Mendeecees, but the lead-up, the glances, the pacing, the quiet "watch this," she whispered to her assistant off camera. That footage hadn't been aired yet, but producers were debating it. If it went public, there'd be no denying her intent in a private call with her manager. Sierra broke down. "I didn't think it would get this far," she cried. "I just wanted a moment." "Well," her manager said flatly, "you got one." On set, meanwhile, Yandi was still furious. Not because Sierra had lied, but because she had smiled through it. Moved like nothing happened. And worst of all, because she was still showing up to set. "It's like she gets to keep her seat at the table while we carry the shame," Yandi told Rashida one afternoon. "You saw how close I was to slapping her." And the worst part is, I still feel like I should have. Rashida shook her head. You did the right thing. You walked away, Yandy muttered. And now they're acting like I'm the one who needs to calm down. Like she didn't like the match in the first place. Gast was divided. Some sided with Yandy and Mendeecees. Others were staying quiet, not wanting to be dragged into the storm. But the mood was heavy. Everyone could feel it. There was no going back to normal. Because this wasn't just a storyline anymore. This was war. By the time the following week rolled around, the energy on set wasn't just tense, it was suffocating. What used to be a chaotic but familiar rhythm had now turned into side eyes, whispered warnings, and multiple security guards standing in corners where no one had ever needed them before. People weren't laughing between takes anymore. Were checking who was mic'd up. They were watching where Yandy was, where Sierra was, and who was standing too close to either one. Mendeecees hadn't come back since his raw video leaked. He'd gone dark, no calls, no posts, no texts to production. The only person who had eyes on him was Yandy, and even she was choosing silence over updates. But one thing was certain, he wasn't done. Insiders said he was working behind the scenes to put pressure on the network, demanding not only that Sierra be removed from group scenes, but that they issue a private apology to him and his family. And from what people were hearing, he wasn't. Bluffing. The network was rattled. Their golden couple had turned against them. What was supposed to be another dramatic season had turned into a potential public scandal. And while they knew conflict brought ratings, they also knew there was a line, and they had let Sierra cross it on camera without pulling her back. Now they were paying the price. Yandy, for her part, was showing up like nothing had changed. But everyone could feel it. It's the way she walked, the way she stood with her back to walls, it's the way she kept her hands locked in front of her chest, like she was trying to stop them from doing what her mouth wouldn't. She wasn't speaking to producers unless absolutely necessary. She was barely making eye contact with anyone she didn't trust. But when she locked eyes with Sierra across the hallway of the makeup trailer, everyone in the room held their breath. Sierra paused. She didn't look afraid, exactly. More like cautious. Like she wasn't sure how far Yandy would go this time. And the truth was, neither was anyone else. You still showing your face? Yandy asked, not loud, but sharp enough to cut the air. Sierra adjusted her ponytail. Up still. Cast, ain't I? Barely, Yandy shot back. The room went silent. One of the producers standing nearby immediately stepped in. Ladies, can we not? Yandy raised a hand. I'm good. Just checking what kind of woman smiles through a lie. Sierra didn't respond. She turned back toward the mirror and resumed her touch-up, but her hand was shaking slightly as she picked up her lip gloss. She knew the cracks were showing, and not just on her face. Backstage, more people were talking. An intern overheard a meeting where someone from VH1 admitted they were being pressured by talent representation to make a decision about Sierra's status. Another assistant claimed a crew member close to editing had said there were multiple versions of the episode where the footage could be cut to either protect or expose her fully. And the choice hadn't been made yet. But what really pushed everything into chaos again was a new leak. Someone uploaded an extended audio clip nearly 90 seconds long. What's in video? Just sound. But in that sound you could hear everything. Sierra laughing to her assistant before the cameras rolled, saying, "This gonna get people talking," followed by her practicing the exact words she used later on, Mendeecees. The audio was crystal clear, damning. Fans exploded. She planned it. This wasn't a trigger moment. This was premeditated. Get her gone. The hashtags returned stronger than ever. Producers began receiving calls from sponsors, demanding answers. Some cast members threatened to pull out of future scenes if Sierra was present. And finally, the network caved. They didn't fire her. Not officially. But they pulled her from all group filming for the next 2 weeks. Confessionals only. No scenes with Yandi. None with Mendeecees. And definitely no reunions, at least for now. The word spread quickly. Yandi was told through her manager. When she got the call, she didn't smile. She just exhaled for the first time in days. "That's a start," she said, "but it's not enough. It's not enough."